This is Desynced. You might have played it in the last Steam Next Fest, or you might be playing it right now as part of its early access launch this week. If neither of those are true for you, then here's the rundown. Desynced is a real-time strategy/automation hybrid game, which means if you're new to the genre like I am, it should be a bit more approachable coming from an RTS background. Being a hybrid game doesn't mean Desynced isn't complicated though, because it absolutely is if you want it to be. But we'll get into the weeds a bit later on. This is my first real exposure to this kind of subgenre, and I've said on record in earlier videos that I'm frankly intimidated by games like this. So I think it's about time I faced my fear and looked to see what it's all about. And it's safe to say I might have found a new time sink. For this video I played around 20 hours of the game across multiple saves, cleared the advanced research tree in a couple of them, with a mix of solo and co-op play, and a roughly 50-50 split between playing on peaceful and hostile mode. Before we go on, I want to say thanks to Forklift Interactive and Stage Games for sponsoring this video and look at Desynced. You can check the game out for yourself on Steam now at a discounted price of $29.99, and it'll go up once the final 1.0 version is out in around a year's time. Links in the description, and even if you're not going to buy the game, if you're interested, please consider giving it a wishlist on Steam as it helps out the devs massively. So the setup for Desynced is simple, to start with anyway. Your spaceship has been damaged, so you send drones down to the surface of an alien world to build what you need to repair your ship, which you'll achieve by expanding, automating efficient production lines, and sustaining a thriving base to keep your ship back up and running. Oh, and fighting off the alien insects too. And just for context, the full story mode isn't yet available in the initial early access release, it is coming later though. The mode available to play right now is basically a sandbox with light story elements to keep you progressing. The game begins with a portable base and a few bots. The idea is that you choose where to set up, ideally in range of some substantial metal and crystal deposits to get your economy rolling. These are the game's two base resources, and while there's a few other core ones to be unlocked as you progress, a massive chunk of everything you build will end up being derived from these one way or another. As this is primarily an automation game, your job is to set up everything so it runs smoothly and allows your slow but gradual expansion into more advanced technology and larger bases. And your will is executed upon your settlement through bots. No, not those ones. These little guys will run around, fulfill orders by transferring resources and items from one building or bot to another, and generally work to keep things flowing as needed. You start with 3 scout bots, who are quite a bit better than the basic ones you'll be building in the first hours of your deployment. Once you've built a few of said early game bots, it's smart to relegate them to the initial menial tasks of mining, so your scouts are freed up to either move resources around, which they can do a lot faster, or, as their name suggests, scout around the map to find loose resources or explore the myriad of ancient ruins. The ruins are meant as an early game booster. By solving their puzzles and transferring certain items, you can unlock the often advanced technologies and resources hidden inside of them that won't come naturally to you for a while. It's a fun way to show what's available down the road, and a great dopamine hit when you find some piece of advanced tech that will provide a genuine and significant boost to your economy. The puzzles are also pretty fun. They give me a kind of Mass Effect vibe in terms of how they're implemented. Some of them are really hard too. They scale depending on the rewards, so if there's something big behind a lock, you might find yourself sitting here for 10 minutes trying to solve it. But once you do solve it, oh, it's satisfying. Expanding your base is fun and rewarding, as is optimizing your resources and production to become so well oiled they might as well be the inside of a 2010s 3.6 litre Subaru Outback. But you do still need a goal, of course, and that's where research and the game's AI helper Elaine both come into play. Elaine gives helpful tips and points you in the right direction, guiding you through the research and tech trees at a steady pace. They start simple, unlocking basic buildings and some modest power generation tools, among others, to allow your initial expansion. But once you clear the basic tree, the advanced tree gets in-depth with more complex parts that allow for advanced management and production options. Like from the trailers I know that there's flying bots, but I haven't been able to get them yet. Anytime now. One of the key back-of-the-box features of Desynced is its customization, and this is something I really like. Firstly, there's your bots. Instead of a belt system, bots do all the work in your base of moving stuff around and fulfilling orders. But a basic bot is just that. It's a little robot. It has no functionality besides its inventory. A low-level Tier 1 bot can be brought onto your network to fulfill jobs, or be controlled manually to scout around, but that's about all. The fun part comes with items, and there are a ton here. They range in size from internal, being the smallest, up to small, medium and large, with higher bots being able to equip either more or bigger items, or a combination of the four. And the items can be anything. It could be a laser miner, so you put that on a bot and boom, now you've got a mining bot. It could be a turret. Boom, now you've got a combat bot to fight off the local insects. Or maybe you put on a solar cell, a small capacitor, and a power field generator. Boom, now you've got a mobile power grid that can keep your other bots powered day and night when they're outside the main power network. It feels like there are really endless combinations and thus functionality to be discovered with this system. You know it's expansive when you're sitting back and you're thinking, right, so I understand that you can put this item onto a bot, but I don't quite know why. Because then it's up to you to figure it out. This functionality extends to buildings. Instead of constructing dedicated factories, you build different sized structures with slots that can equip those same items. For example, you'd probably start a game building small 1x1 buildings and equipping them with fabricators to refine basic metal bars. But those same 1x1 buildings could serve as a platform for a big solar array once your power requirements inevitably increase. And then you could put batteries on them to store that power to power the grid overnight. It's really cool. And I really like how storage and items are visually represented both on units and buildings. I think this entire system of customizable bots and buildings is fantastic, and it's definitely my favourite single feature of the entire game. Honestly, it feels like I'm selling the system short in my description here, by nature of needing to keep it relatively high level to save this video from becoming an hour long. It does honestly feel like there are endless possibilities, and if that kind of gameplay excites you, then you're going to love this. Now, look, I can't make any direct comparisons to other automation games like, say, Factorio or Satisfactory, well, because I haven't played any. But I will try to quantify Desynced's complexity in general terms to give you a bit of an idea of what you should expect. The game is presented in a way that feels quite approachable, especially for someone like me. The art style is unoffensive and it's got a really cozy vibe to it, especially that depth of field effect, how nice. And as you start, you are cheerfully pushed forward by Elaine, who lays out the basics and gives you clear goals and marks in the sand to reach, which makes you feel like you're not simply just flying blind and throwing stuff at the wall to see what sticks. But there are many layers of complexity under that approachable surface. There's resource management, making sure you've got enough production and refining capacity to make the items you need, with many of them needing very robust production lines to be made at pace. There's the vast item pool, with tons of unique functionality being derived from components and modules to be equipped onto your bots and buildings. And then there's the scripting and behavior controls, which you could spend an infinite amount of time in, optimizing and building behaviors. Once a behavior controller is installed into a unit, this interface can be accessed. Different behaviors can be accomplished by linking combinations of functional blocks, and these can be simple programs, such as this one, which instructs a storage location to constantly request metal. Similarly, it doesn't take much complexity to instruct a unit to haul resources from one location to another, and the behaviors link well with the rest of the game's systems. More advanced automation is also possible, such as this script, which instructs a group of miners to travel from resource to resource, and sends separate bots to haul the resources back to the home base. The behavior system seems powerful enough to do some very advanced logic, but it's also approachable enough for users who are new to the system, like me. The one thing holding it back at this stage is a bit of a lack of documentation, but hopefully that'll change soon throughout the early access period. Yeah, there is certainly no lack of complexity here. Thankfully though, there is an in-depth item codex to help you out, as well as tutorials and guides in the game to put you on the right track. Plus there's their online wiki, which, while basic now, will undoubtedly be expanded upon as the game grows. So even if you're as green to the genre as I am, you won't be left out on your own. While this is an early access release, Desynced doesn't come with a lot of the early access downsides you see a lot of games ship with. You know the ones. Ones that have no content, ones that are technically unstable and a complete mess, and ones with no roadmap or any kind of plan to hit a final 1.0 release. Content-wise, there's a lot of game to be had here. Like I said, I'm about 20 hours in so far, and I don't even feel like I'm close to exhausting it. And with the full story mode to come, along with 2 more factions, there's going to be a ton to do in the final game. The devs have said that they expect hundreds of hours of gameplay with version 1, and I believe them. Something that hugely extends the replay value both in this initial release and beyond is multiplayer, both co-op and versus. You might have noticed a lot of the footage in this video is from co-op games by the little text saying when units and buildings are being controlled by someone else. Though one piece of feedback I would give around that is just to make it a little more obvious about what the other player is doing. We've tripped over each other a few times, and it would be good to know if my teammate is slacking in a co-op game, though in my co-op games it might be me who's slacking. Anyway, this is more apparent in 3-player games, which we also tried. I find it's more useful to just assign tasks to each person, rather than have us all try and do everything. It just makes things easier. Co-op is great here because it's true co-op. You control the same base, the same resources, the same production lines. Everything is shared. It's like when you select the same colour in Age of Empires. It's been great for me because, like I said, I'm not that familiar with this genre, but my mate is. He's got decent hours in Factorio, Satisfactory, and over 1,000 hours in Stormworks Build and Rescue, which if you've played, you'll know can get very complicated. So despite me having half a dozen hours in Desynced before he joined, he quickly got up to speed and he was able to help me get a hold of things, and even advance our settlement by delving into the game's scripting mechanics. It's been super cool seeing what he can do, and it's helped me to become a better player as well. For me, Desynced has been a really fun venture into a new genre, and I do think I'll be more interested in trying other games that fit this bill in the future. I'm very keen to see how Desynced develops throughout its early access period, and I'm excited to play more of it once it hits 1.0 sometime probably next year, especially with the allure of new factions and tech trees. I think playing co-op is particularly great. While of course you can have a lot of fun solo, being able to split the tasks across 2, 3 or more people is really nice, especially for someone like me who's very new to all this. Plus, playing in peaceful mode with a couple of your mates is just really cozy and it's fun. I like it a lot. And if you can rope in someone who's got experience with this kind of genre, it'll make things go a whole lot smoother if you're as new to it as I am. If you like the look of Desynced, then go check it out on Steam. It's available now in early access for a discounted rate of $29.99 USD, and it will go up a bit once version 1.0 comes about. And if you're not quite ready to pull the trigger, do make sure to at least wishlist it. It costs nothing and it helps the developer massively. So look, thank you so much for watching, and thanks again to Forklift Interactive and Stage Games for sponsoring the video. If you'd like to support me and what I do here, then you can do so by joining my Patreon or becoming a member here on YouTube. And of course you'll join the legends who are already part of it. We've got Elastic Turtle, who's just upgraded from the Scout to the Knight tier, thanks very much. And at the Cavalier tier we have Takayo, Wintendo, Bad Ghosts, Sean Webber, Grey Spirit 4, Peter, Tim, George, Nedders, John Kaiser, Juan, King Thickums, Pavel, Bram, and Christian. And at the Paladin tier, we have Johnny, Marika, Eric, Age of Cause, Joe, and Tank. Thanks very much everyone, you know I appreciate it. What are your thoughts on RTS hybrid games like Natural Selection and Silica? I haven't played many personally, but I am pretty interested in giving them a try. I'll probably be trying Silica quite soon. What are your thoughts on RTS games that enable you to custom build units, such as Impossible Creatures, Forge Battalion, Warzone 21k, and others? This is an interesting one. I do have a very big soft spot for Impossible Creatures. I haven't played the other two. I think it's fun, but it can be overdone, and like you've seen in Impossible Creatures, if you played that game, it does kind of devolve into like the eagle lobster, lobster sperm whale kind of meta. So it's fun, but you got to do it right. Have you made a review of a Nebulous Fleet Command? Not yet, but I plan to one day. What's your favourite RTS setting? Ancient, classical, medieval, gunpowder, etc.? Would you like to see more settings in RTS? I think RTS settings are pretty well catered for. I'm always a fan of a ancient history RTS like an Age of Empires or a Stronghold, but if sci-fi is done right, that's my jam too. Have you played the Wargame series? Yes. If you like the Wargame series, you might not like what I think of the Wargame series. Never been a big fan of it. Maybe it's time I go back and check it out. Last game I played was Wargame Red Dragon, but I wasn't super into it. But it was a while ago, so maybe it's worth another look. And lastly, what are some of your favourite games outside the RTS genre? Oh, well, favourite right now, I have to admit I'm a Hearthstone addict. I've been playing Hearthstone on and off pretty much since it came out, and I still do that, though I don't pay for it anymore. Free to play, by the way. And otherwise, it's the probably bi-yearly Tarkov sessions, probably every 3 or 4 wipes if you're in. Probably every 3 or 4 wipes, and mates and I play Tarkov. And apart from that, nothing much. I'm just sitting here playing RTS games. Anyway, thanks for the questions, much appreciated. Drink responsibly. If it's coffee, just don't have too much caffeine. See you next time.